Well, thank you, Dr. Daba. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, it's an honor to be here representing the renewable energy space and solar PV space in particular. I guess Dr. Yamani articulated the vision very clearly, but one would have to ask themselves, why solar? You know, Saudi Arabia sits on probably the best hydrocarbon resource on the planet, so why alternative energy? And I think, again, there's a very thoughtful plan around exactly why that is, but if you look to the end game, and that end game is Saudi Arabia wants to create a best-in-class economy that drives, improves the standard of living and drives export of product and capability globally. Well, the engine that's going to drive that system is a smart and efficient energy system. PV is a very important component of that because it enables, as Dr. Yamani articulated, it enables the kingdom to optimize the value of its strategically important resources. See if I can figure this out. So I guess why PV? Our friends at GE, I think, articulate a little bit about why that is. PV is cost competitive now. I'll show you a slide in a few minutes to describe exactly how competitive it is. PV is scalable. Last night we closed on the sale of a 550 megawatt project to Mid-American Energy. Mid-American Energy, for those of you who don't know, is a Midwestern utility owned by Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway Group. That's the second 550 megawatt project we sold this year. We sold the other actually to our good friends and partners at GE Energy Financial Services. So PV it's scalable, it's cost effective, and when you look at time to generation, PV is probably one of your fastest alternatives. We started construction on a project that was supported by our good friends from the Department of Energy, a 290 megawatt project, which is shown in the upper right-hand corner of this picture. We started construction on that project in June of this year. By the end of this year, we'll have 150 megawatts online sending electricity into the grid. So speed to generation probably can't be beat in any technology as it compares to PV. What's interesting about sort of the scale in what we've done, I think, to date is that it gives us great insights into how PV fits in a broader power ecosystem. Right? So the energy system is, in my mind, a series of sort of interconnected, interdependent, concentric rings. And in our case, it starts with a PV module, goes out to a power plant, then goes broader into how that power plant is going to interact within a utility system or a power buyer system, and how that utility system interacts then or interplays with the country's broader energy initiatives. We at First Solar have scaled these plants to the point where we understand that interconnectivity, at least from the ground up. We need to work with Dr. Yamani's team and others here to help integrate or dovetail the attributes of solar and as it fits into the grid with the strategic objectives and constraints of the broader energy strategy within the kingdom. First Solar, by way of background, we've been in business for about 13 years. For those of you that don't know the history of the company, we were founded by John Walton. John Walton, son of Sam Walton, founder of Walmart. John was a very wealthy man when he started the company. I think he made a couple $100 million a year by just waking up in the morning. So he wasn't really in the business to make money. John's vision was he wanted to change the world. He wanted to find a technology and start a business that would change the world. I think if you look at what he started and what we've accomplished over the years, although modest in size relative to a number of participants in this room today, we have made an impact. We've installed over 5 gigawatts of solar PV panels globally. We scaled a business that in 2003 was roughly 25 megawatts a year into a business that now produces 2.5 gigawatts of modules every year, a 100-fold scale up in the course of 7 or so years. So we have had an impact, and again, we believe that scale up and that knowledge base that we've acquired in terms of some of these very large scale operating systems makes us one of the premier energy solution providers, or PV energy solution providers on the planet. So when you talk about PV or renewable energy, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is price. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, okay. This slide here tries to give you some perspective on price and its context within the existing portfolio within the kingdom. The shaded line across left to right indicates where a PV power plant would need to sell its electricity in 2012. So if we signed a deal to build a PV plant in the kingdom in 2012, that PV plant would sell its electricity anywhere between 12 and 15 cents, depending upon scale of the plant and location and insulation characteristics. That compares to a variety of different technologies in the kingdom. We've highlighted here in red and blue. Blue, the price that those technologies would need on a subsidized basis for oil. Red, at the pricing that those technologies would need to sell electricity in an unsubsidized world. So again, if you think about this in terms of a level playing field, PV today stacks up with over 60% of the installed base within the kingdom. There's great headroom in terms of this PV too. So before I change this slide, First Solar currently produces modules. In Q4 this year, we produce modules at an efficiency rate of 12%. That means 12% of the incoming insulation is converted directly into electricity. This summer, First Solar produced a cell using commercially proven manufacturing technologies at an efficiency of 17.3%. So you can see the dramatic headroom. And the pricing of 12 to 15 cents is based on that 12% efficient model, but there's tremendous headroom to be realized and extracted over the next few years. This picture, I won't bog down on it in too much detail, but what we tried to show here is this is in effect, the energy consumption by fuel type in the kingdom today. The blue represents the natural gas. The shades of green are oil or diesel or oil derivative products. That's the top box. The bottom box, what we try to do is roll that forward and give you a glimpse at what the demand and supply could look like in 2020. We've layered in a strip of 10 gigawatts of solar at the bottom. That's the red strip along the bottom. And what that strip does is, in effect, it delivers energy as available, and it pushes the more expensive oil units offline. So you wouldn't burn oil. At a 10 gigawatt portfolio in 2020, that would represent roughly 6% of the kingdom's annual energy consumption. And it would save, for every sunny day in the kingdom, it would save over 100,000 barrels of oil a day. Now, we're not here to tell you what the value of that is or what the value proposition should be, and I think it's been articulated here already, but 100,000 barrels of oil can be used into other downstream value-added industries. It can be used to invest in infrastructure. The saved oil could be sold. The dollars could be recycled into a variety of things, from infrastructure, education, environmental initiatives, healthcare, things of that nature. It could be saved for future generations. Just a quick snapshot, 2 more slides. This is an actionable program. So PV is not a pipe dream. It's not something to be thought of as 5, 10 years down the road. You can think of PV, and what we've shown in this slide here is 3 different ways to deploy PV that can add value to the overall energy ecosystem immediately. The first way is PV and diesel in a hybrid configuration. You can put PV diesel together with today's control technologies and get power to off-grid opportunities, people who can't otherwise get access to the grid currently. The second configuration could be in a semi-distributed mode. So you can deploy PV because it's modular. It's in effect 1 megawatt blocks. And if you want to build a 500 megawatt plant, it's 500 1 megawatt blocks. But you can deploy in a semi-distributed mode 1, 2, 5, 10 megawatt systems in key locations around the grid to actually improve the flow of the grid and avoid transmission expenditures. The final way to deploy PV, of course, is in mega scale, which is in line with some of the large projects that we've done in the US. 200, 300, 500 megawatt projects by a substation on a major high voltage transmission line. It avoids the need for, again, incremental T&D investment, and it avoids the need to create pipeline to service a power generating plant. So it's actionable and it's flexible, I guess, is the message that I'd leave you with. So just to sum up a few thoughts here. One is the kingdom has great resources. It doesn't just have a great hydrocarbon resource. Use all the resources so that you can strategically optimize the value of the most important. That's probably the major takeaway. And I think if you consider this in the context of the end game, to drive that world-class economy, you need that strategically sound energy engine at its core to make that happen. And those are my final remarks. Thank you, Dr. Newman.